Hi. So we have our box decorated on the sides. And I know your paper's going to be different, so don't judge it by that. But I'm not going to do the top yet because we're going to work on putting our hinges. And these are our hinges. They're a little bit tight if you use the regular brads. So I bought some of these. They're Tim Holtz, and they're very, very tiny. So I'm gonna look at these and see if they're gonna work. Oh, they do. Okay, so these are the ones that I'm gonna use for putting my hinge on, and I need 4 of them. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. They are very tiny. Let me show you how. That's 3 of them. They're extremely tiny. But the ones that we have used to put the hinges on, they will bind when you go to roll this back and forth to close it. So I thought we would try these. You can get them at Amazon. Just look up Tim Holtz brads, and they should come up. They should pop up. Okay. Okay, so I'm opening mine to find out which is the bottom and which is the top, because with this particular hinge, I don't know which hinge you have gotten, but this hinge, it has to be, this part has to be on the top so that it will swing down. And then the smaller piece, the latch part, has to be on the bottom. Depending on which hinge you have bought, you'll have to kind of think through how you're going to put that on. But I'm going to go ahead and put mine on this way. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and actually put my bottom on. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and, yeah, I almost have to figure out that way. So I want to find the middle. Let's go ahead and find the middle because we're putting one on, and this is almost 10 inches. So I'm going to mark right, I moved it just 1/8 of an inch because there's 1/8 of an inch over this way and 1/8 of an inch over that way. I'm going to move this. There we go. Okay, just so it's going to be centered, and I'm going to mark my center. There's my center right there. So I am going to take my foxing out and just kind of hold it closed. Okay, so I have put mine together, and there is my center. So I'm going to put this as close as I can. Let's move this out of the way. And I'm going to mark that. And I'm going to mark that. Now, what I might do is, since I have this here, I'm going to go ahead and take my awl. Now watch your fingers. These awls are very sharp. Okay, and I marked it, and I marked it. Okay, so I at least have it marked, so I'm going to go ahead and take my awl and make just a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be terribly big because those screws are very small. They're extremely small. Okay, so I don't know if you can see how tiny that is. It's just extremely tiny. So I'm going to take one of them, and I'm going to put it through my hole, and then I'm going to go ahead and, now I'm not sure these are going to work. I'm not sure they're going to be deep enough. They're not. Okay, there's the end of that. I will put those back. They're very short also, as well as being small. So I'm going to have to go ahead and use some of these brads. I have used these before with this type of clasp, and actually you can see I've used it on this one, and I just have to be careful and kind of lift up on this and then push it back down to get it latched. It does kind of bind, but okay, we're going to have to try this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of these in here. I'm going to push it through the first hole. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Now again, I want to open it so that one tail goes this way and one tail goes that way. So let me find my spatula, and I'm going to go ahead and open those. And I am pushing these down hard because this is going to, we're done. We're not taking this one back out again. And let's get another brad. I've really enjoyed this set because it comes with all different sizes. You can see I've used the small ones a lot, so I'll probably just order more of these small ones rather than the entire set. Okay. And it's a little bit tricky getting those. There it goes. And I'm going to turn it so that when I open it, this goes ahead and gets laid down. There we go. We have the bottom on. Now, in order to get the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and latch this. And then I'm going to first of all get my corners very okay, it's not latching straight. So there we go. It looks like it's going to be a little off center. There we go. And I want my corners to be straight before I start putting marks. Okay, and I can see them. Yay. So then go ahead and use your awl. Be very careful again. Don't poke yourself. And there's one. There's the other. So then I'm going to take this off and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and get my brads. Now make sure that as you put this together that this is latching down like that, if you're using the same one I'm using. So I put my brad in the hole provided and push. Okay, and again, we want our tails to be going this direction and this direction. You don't want them up and down. And that's how that one is. So these are permanent because we are going to put pretty papers over these to hide them. And we'll put tape on them first of all. So I'm going to push that down pretty good. Okay, I only need one more brad. And I'm going to put the brad in there, and then I'm going to put it in that hole. Okay, oh, that looks good. So I'm twisting that, and I'm pushing the outside of the brad with my finger so that I can get this pushed down pretty tight. There we go. Okay, so if you have some masking tape, just like we did on these tails, go ahead and put that on there. I'm actually going to show you how to use score tape if you're using score tape. I just take a little piece and I cut it off, and then I will lay it over there. I don't take the top part off because I'm not ready to put paper on it yet. So the paper will help to protect your sticky part. And what's nice about the score tape, especially in this situation, you can put glue over top of it, and so that the score tape's not the only thing holding this in place. Let me do this. Okay, and I want to make sure and get that pushed as tight towards those tails as I possibly can. That helps to hold it. Okay, so now we can go ahead and decorate the inside of the top. Make sure it's your top and not your bottom. We're not quite ready to do the bottom. Oh, and I have to put some tape on this too. This one. So let me go ahead and cut a piece of score tape. And again, if you're using masking tape, that's perfectly fine. You saw us do that in our last video. And I'm going to put that right across those. And then I'm going to push them pretty tight. Make sure and support on the other side so that you don't break your chipboard. Okay, that looks good. So then all we have to really do on the top is decorate. And I've shown you kind of how to measure that. I'm going to go ahead and get my see-through ruler. And we know these are 2 inches. So I'm going to cut them at 1 7/8 inch deep. And then they are about 9 5/8, just a little bit under 9 5/8 across. So let's move this out of the way. Let's go ahead and get our cut and scoreboards and whatever paper you're planning on using for that. I have several. I'm thinking I'm going to put this on the front. I think that's cute. But I might use this on the inside. Oh, that's also very cute. Okay, I've changed my mind. I'm going to use this on the top. So, actually, before I start cutting into this piece of paper, I want to measure and find out. The outside measurement is 9 3/4 by 6 7/8. So again, we're going to go ahead and take off one of the white sides. Well, actually 2, but I'm doing one of the long white sides. Oh, and I always forget. There's my cut line on this. It's different than my all-in-one. This is a really nice board. I got it at Amazon. When I first started teaching classes in our group clubhouse, the girls bought them because they're only $20 for this entire cut and score. You have a cut and score board in this. So it was a really good buy. I will try and find a link for this if you girls are interested in this. Okay, so I've cut off 2 of my white sides. So in order for me to do this, now there are 2 ways you can measure. You can either place your paper and give yourself a little bit of black space and then use a tick mark where you want to cut it, or you can actually measure it, the entire thing, and then cut it about 1/8 of an inch smaller. Usually I do better if I go ahead and measure. I get a better cover of my papers. And what did we say this was? 9 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to do 9.5 inches. And I'm going to turn it upside down so that I can push it up against. Okay. So before I cut the next one, I'm actually going to take my paper and lay it on here and see that just about fits perfectly. I have a little bit of black framing around my piece. So then the other size that I want, this says 6 7/8, so I'm thinking 6 3/4. So we're going to put it at 6 3/4, and again, you'll watch me. I go ahead and follow this line down to make sure that it's very square. And then I will check. It's just, oh, it's just about perfect. I'll have to move it over just a little bit this way. There we go. So I have a little bit of black around all of it. Now, this is not going on the outside. This is going on the inside. So I do want to go ahead, and one of the easiest ways to make sure that you've cut it properly without laying it in there and then trying to fight to get it back out is to take the long side and see that's going to fit in there perfectly. And then take the short side. Yep, that works very well. Okay, so let's go ahead and smudge all this up with our ink. And again, I'm using Tim Holtz Distress Vintage Photo ink. And I'm putting on a heavier layer, which means when I ink it, most of the time we just want to get the edge of this inked. And so we will keep it perpendicular like this, straight up and down. If you want to make more of your page inked, then you'll start to lay this over depending on how much ink you want to get on it. And so I'm doing maybe a 45-degree angle on this. When I come to my corners, I will do more, because when you look at antique photos, the corners are generally a little bit darker than the rest of the edges of a photo. And that's because dust has settled into them, and so it's not like they're dirty, it's just that they've gotten antiqued looking. And so you can kind of see I've put a little bit more ink in my corner than I do just on the edges. And this is a personal choice. You can do this however you like to do it. I'm really excited today because my husband has, you've probably seen me fighting with my guillotine trying to make it work, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse. And so my husband, God love him, he went and bought me a nice new guillotine, not a guillotine, but oh, I can't even think of the name of it, a rototrim. And it has a 5-year warranty, it's self-sharpening. So I'm very excited about getting that. I use my tools a lot. I make kits for groups. They have to get their paper, but I make kits of chipboard. And chipboard's the hardest thing on cutters because it's so thick. So if you're looking for a really nice, it's rotary and it's self-sharpening. I will try and put a link. I'll try and remember to put a link down at the bottom for that. Okay, let's go ahead and ink or put glue all over our paper. And I'm using art glitter glue. This is one of my favorite glues. I know I've said that I'm going to try the Bearly Art glue. I haven't had a chance to get any and try it, and I think that's just because I really, really love this art glitter glue. So then I lay this down in there, and I'm going to use my hands first of all to warm up my glue and get it placed. Then I'm going to take my bone folder, and there we go. Now I did put in the video one, part one of this, part one or part two, I did put links to Amazon where you can buy bone folders and several of the tools that we use. They're a nice investment, especially if you think you're going to do a lot of this. Okay, so the next thing, that's the top. That looks good. So the next thing I want to decorate are my sides. So we already know that we need to make this, and I don't think this is going to fit. I think it's going to be too small. Yep, it's too short. So I do have another piece that's kind of along the same coloring. It's not as much brown as it is the purples and blues. So I'm going to go ahead and use this for my sides. And let me push this out of the way and get my cut board out. The first thing I always do, especially when I print my own papers, if you're using store-bought papers, you don't have to take your edges off. But when you print your papers, you do. And sometimes it's a little tricky because they don't always print exactly straight. For example, it's narrow down here and it's wide up here. So what I try to do is I try to get it as close as I can. And you can kind of see, I didn't do the best of jobs. I did get a little bit of colored ink down here and none up at the top, but that's okay. It's better, it's better than having white showing. And so then I'm going to take my second side off. I usually do two sides at a time. Okay, so again, I'm going to measure, and this is, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do 9 5/8 long. And we know we have to do 2 inches wide. So I'm going to do my 9 5/8 first. And I check to make sure it's square. Okay. So now I'm going to do my 1 7/8. And I need 2 of these, remember, because we're doing 2 sides. There's 1. And there's 2. Okay. So again, I'm going to check just to make sure that these are going to fit. And it's not terribly. I think that's going to be good. Okay. So I'm going to ink these. Smudge them with my Distress ink. And again, I'm laying it over just about 45-degree angle because I want more ink on mine. And this is a personal choice again. You can do it up and down and just get the white edge. I don't know if you can see that. When it's inked, this is brown. When it's not inked, it's thick enough paper that you can see the white cut. And that's pretty much why we ink our sides of our paper, just so that it makes it look a little bit more professional, a little bit more finished. And then again, if you want more ink on the sides of your paper, you don't hold it up and down. Up and down will just get you the edge. But if you start laying it over, you start getting a little bit more ink on your sides, in your corners. And it looks cute. It just looks like it's a little bit more antique-y. So these are personal choices that you'll make with every project you do. Okay, so I know that these are going to fit. They're just a wee bit snug. They do fit. I just have to be careful to get them in there properly. So I'm going to go ahead and put my glue on one piece. Now, as soon as we do this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our foxing and our divider in the other side. Okay, and I am going to support this. And you kind of have to be a little bit particular on those edges where you've put your tape. Push them just a little bit more. If you need to, and mine I'm going to have to, I'm going to go ahead and put just a little extra tape right there and hold it for a second or two until I know that it's grabbed that. Anywhere you see that it's not grabbing, and especially when you use the brown tape. If you use score tape, the score tape does kind of try to help to hold it. So I'm going to push these and hold them. Use the warmth of my hand to try and get that tape, that glue to. Okay. I'm on the edge of my table because I can push this against the edge of my table and still be able to see it. If I try to do it this way, it shuts. So I'm going to move this to the edge of my table. I am sorry that you can't see me doing this. But then I have the table to support my box, and the table supports it. There we go. We got that in pretty well. All right, so the other side has score tape, which I will show you the difference. The one with the masking tape was a little bit harder to make sure I got it stuck down there well, but the score tape will actually help to hold this down. And neither one is better or worse, although it depends on what you like. And for me, I really do like score tape in this situation because it helps to hold until my glue catches. And so I have this glued. I'm going to take these off. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Now, if you watch me, I'm trying to get this edge as close to the edge of my chipboard as I can, because that also helps when we have our screws, our brads, our screws so close to the edge. And it actually helps a little bit. Now this one I'm going to go ahead and lay down here, and I'm going to push around my brads to make sure that that glue catches really well. There we go. Now you can see I didn't have to work as hard with the score tape because the score tape helps to hold the paper in place, whereas the masking tape doesn't. You have to do a little bit more work with masking tape than you do with score tape. So I hope that helps you. Score tape, I don't use a lot of score tape except in situations like this. Okay, so we've gotten those two done, and we just have to do the smaller sides now. So I know that I have to cut them 1 7/8 inch deep. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, I'm going to put my pin in my glue, remind myself so it doesn't dry out. And again, I'm going to do this at 1 7/8. I'm going to do 2 of them. And if you're using a ruler and scissors to cut your things, that's perfectly fine too. Okay, so then the next measurement I want is, I want to see how long I have to make it. And this one is 6 3/4. Now, if you have a cut board, any kind of cut board, you can actually put these together and then measure and cut them both. A cut board really does a nice job, and I'm pushing up because this is so small. There we go. Now, it's just a little bit too big. So what I am going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and just trim off a very thin piece on each of these. And then I'll try one more time. Yeah, that's much better. It fits in there much better. Okay, let's put our cut and scoreboard away. And we're at a half an hour, so we're going to go ahead and stop with this video, and then the next one we will go ahead and I will show you how to put in your divider and your foxing. So one of the things I'm looking at is this has a frame at the bottom. So I'm going to try and get, there's a, I don't think you can see it, but on this side, the frame is on this side. So I am going to try to make the frame go around. There'll be a frame here, a frame here, a frame here, and a frame here. So as I glue these in, I'm going to be aware of how I'm laying them. And these are just design issues that I like to take care of. That may not matter to you, but it's something you might want to think about while you're distressing your papers. Okay, let's put some ink on, or glue on this. And I'm going to put this one on here. I've used the warmth of my hand first of all, and then I'm going to use my bone folder. This is a Teflon bone folder. It's not made out of animal bone. It's actually made out of Teflon. And I do like this one. You can find these at Amazon. You can also find the regular bone folders if you like those. As librarians, that's what we used in school when we were learning how to do books and things. We actually had, but that was so many years ago. I don't even want to think about it. And so they weren't as conscious of using animal things, animal hides, animal bones and things. And nowadays I really like it that they've gone ahead and started using the Teflon. Actually, the Teflon, it lasts nicely. It's a little bit harder. You can do a little bit heavier work with the bone or the Teflon than you can with the bone folder. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I used my hands first, and now I'm using this. Okay, so there we have it. We have our inside finished. We still have to get these in, and we'll do that next time, and then we will decorate. And then we also have to make journals. We have 2 journals. Let me push this aside. We have 2 very nice little journals. One's a little bigger than the other. And then we also have this divider that fits in here to hide one of the bigger journals. And it does fit. I'm just having a hard time getting it in there. There we go. And then we also have our match boxes. And you can make seeds, or you can put anything you like in here, actually. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this. I have really enjoyed working with you today. I hope I see you next time when we go ahead and continue with our foxing and our divider. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.